guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
And why now? Well, I think Karl Anthony Towns' reaction there sums up the collective response around the NBA. Gersson Rosas was in the gym this morning. He was in the gym this morning with the team in Minnesota. I don't think a lot of people saw this one coming, although they have a new ownership group there now. And from what I've been gathering in the last 10, 20 minutes since this happened, this wasn't as big a surprise amongst those who have been in communication with the new ownership group. That's Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez. Now, that statement is from Glenn Taylor. That's the current owner / old owner. But they have a very complicated ownership transition that's starting to take place. Mark Lowry's group bought 20% of the team this spring. They get another 20% after the 2022 season, and then the final 20% after the 23 season. So there's a transition of the next 2 years. So you see Glenn Taylor is the statement there, but this is really the new ownership group. You know, you get a new boss, and it's not always all that surprising when the new boss wants to hire his own people.
Hey, Timberwolves!
Ben Simmons will come to Minnesota. Forget about the trade talks.
God.
There are no more trade talks for Ben Simmons.
Well, welcome into this emergency episode of Mackey and Judd. We're live on the Score North YouTube channel and Score North Facebook and Twitter, and we'll pop your comments and questions and gripes onto the screen here. But, yeah. The Timberwolves dismissed Gersson Rosas in a very frank press release with no thank you or anything.
And they misspelled Timberwolves.
They misspelled Timberwolves
I did not write that press release. I want that on the record.
I believe it was through the voice of Glenn Taylor. Technically, Glenn Taylor, he didn't write the press release, I'm sure, but he's the voice on the press release. And Sachin Gupta, NBA trade machine guy, who was second in line in the Wolves front office, will be the interim general manager or whatever his title is going to be while they look for yet another head of basketball operations. If you're wondering whether the players on the team were in the loop on this, Karl Anthony Towns tweeted WTF shortly after the announcement. So we're still gathering information here. We've got some notes out. Our guy Doogie is going to join us for a scoop session tomorrow, so he'll have a lot more time to gather information. But the timing feels very sudden, like something happened. The fact that, like Ramona Shelburne was insinuating there on ESPN that, well, you know, the new ownership group comes in and, you know, they want their own guy. And it's very possible that at some point Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez wanted their own guy. But if that was the case, I think there would have been a little bit more of a, hey, we wish Gersson well in his future endeavors. This was just like, this almost felt like something happened and he was shown the door. So I guess, how are you guys processing this here? Just, 6 days before camp, and the Wolves are now looking for their 9th head of basketball operations in the last 13 years. So
I tweeted this.
Go get them.
I would have, with most franchises in professional sports, I would be like, this is a shocking move to, this late in the game. With the Timberwolves, it's like, oh, yeah, it's the Timberwolves. Training camp starts next week, as you said, and the only interesting thing that I could potentially tie some pieces together, Phil, is Doogie. Doogie told us on Scoop Sessions this summer that there was not exactly harmony in the front office of the Wolves, and that Gersson basically was deciding a lot of things by himself. Now, he is, to give him this, he's the president of basketball operations. So it's hard to say, well, everything should be a think tank and everybody. It's good to involve people, and I think Gersson was known for that when he came here. But you also, at some point in time, have to make decisions, and there has to be a final person, and that should be the POBO. It was interesting when Robbie Sicca, who was a doctor who did a lot for the Wolves and had also worked for the Vikings, and I believe that you're friends with him, Phil. Yeah. When Robbie left, it was sort of sudden, and it was definitely, there was something going on there. So did something else happen? Because the one thing is, with all respect to Ramona Shelburne, who's outstanding, you don't make this move. First of all, Mark Lowry and A-Rod don't own the team yet. As she explained, that's evolving and coming through in the next few years. But second of all, if you are going to make this move, you make this move in June. You make this move in July. You don't make it late in the afternoon on the Wednesday before you begin training camp. And so I think you're right. I think there's more at work here. But that being said, and I think the both of you guys will agree with me, and Phil, we've talked about this extensively. That being said, it's so hard to give this franchise the benefit of the doubt because it's been so poorly run for so long. So like some teams you would be like, oh, this is a really good franchise. Something bad must have happened. And this is probably the right move. Not sure about you two. I can't go there because this franchise has screwed up so many things. It's really hard to give them any benefit of the doubt.
Well, also, here's the crazy thing here. So let's rack up another embarrassment for Glenn Taylor here. Regardless of whether it was for something internal that happened behavior-wise or whether it was some combination of behavior and basketball ops or whatever, like they just fired another head of basketball operations after just over 2 years. Wasn't it like May of
19?
It's like spring of 19. It's been two years.
May 2nd, I think, 2019.
Everybody raved about Gersson Rosas when he was hired, right? The process, they brought all these different people, Jim Pete, Cheryl Reeve, Ethan Casson, all these people were involved in the process of hiring him, and it was just unanimous. He blew everyone away, right? And then 2 years later, whether it's for behavior or basketball reasons or a combination, he's just unceremoniously dumped, and they're back to the drawing board. So sometimes you get unlucky, sometimes you whiff. Glenn Taylor always whiffs and almost always gets unlucky in air quotes, because he's an incompetent, terrible professional sports owner. And, whether this was directly his fault or not, I'll say it again. The Wolves will be looking for their 9th head of basketball operations in 13 years. Think about that for a second. And this is right in the middle, too, of the Wolves going into today were the odds-on favorites to trade for Ben Simmons, which we can get into how this impacts that. On the positive side, a lot of people raving about Sachin Gupta. He's been an assistant GM a couple times. He's the NBA trade machine guy. And a lot of people think that he was legitimately, one of the smartest people in that front office and maybe even ready to take a GM job, whether it was with the Timberwolves or somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So, I guess in the interim, they're going to get to watch him potentially make some moves, pick up the ball on some of these Ben Simmons talks. I don't know how that's going to work. Another thing to note here from Bleacher Report NBA reporter Jake Fisher, he tweets, quote, "In the wake of Gersson Rosas' departure, word has circulated among league sources since Summer League that incoming Wolves owners Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez have communicated they are fond of Sixers GM Elton Brand, a name to keep an eye on here. So Brand works, I think, just below Daryl Morey, who's the president of basketball operations.
Yeah.
But no.
I am not going to give this franchise the benefit of any doubt now. And here's the thing:
nobody.
So I'm not going to say, well, Sachin Gupta has done a great job and he's the trade machine guy, and look, when he's
the trade
hired,
machine guy. What more do you want? Go make a trade. Trade for Ben Simmons.
He is proposing to Philadelphia right now a 16-team, 64-player trade. Okay, but this franchise is so dysfunctional. It's so disheartening. I mean, we've been talking about Ben Simmons, and we knew that Gersson was pursuing him, and now that blown up completely. Gersson Rosas, I believe it was last February, finally brings in his coach, right? He fires Ryan, who was a nice, popular guy, but he brings in Chris Finch. Hey, Chris Finch, I finally got you. Leave the Toronto coaching staff and join me. And now we're, less than a week from the start of these guys being on the court, and Chris Finch doesn't really have a boss. He doesn't. So he took this job thinking, oh, good, I get to work for my friend from Houston, Gersson Rosas. And now the GM is gone. And the president of basketball operations, and if he's gone, what does that say for Finch? And I also can't blame Cat. I mean, this is just the problem is this is another nail in the coffin of players wanting to be here. If you're Karl Anthony Towns,
hey, come on down. You want to play for the Minnesota Timberwolves? Help them search for a new president of basketball operations.
The most fitting thing this woebegone franchise ever did was have that damn garage sale. They should have sold employees. Here's Gersson Rosas'
It's
contract.
The Timberwolves garage sale.
Yep.
Come on down.
You remember the garage sale?
You can get a pair of Rasho Nesteroviches size 43 boots.
Yeah, I think we once said that David Kahn's mole was for sale. And, but I mean, think about this. It's just this. I mean, Kat, you're literally sitting there, and now it's like, Gersson got fired. And he clearly didn't know a thing about it.
There is some wild
what's
stuff.
Embarrassing about this.
There is some wild stuff floating around the internet. I don't know if we're ever going to get full clarity or not, but let's just say
on Twitter.
Yeah, let's just say I am comfortable saying that this is not just like, oh, Mark Lowry wanted someone else with a better basketball vision. This is clearly the timing of this and everything leads to something happened that forced the Timberwolves to get rid of Gersson Rosas. So we can answer. Maxfield says, I hate Phil, but I love the garage sale bet. I'll take that.
Same. Yeah.
Why do you hate Phil? Ordinarily, people don't like me.
The Timberwolves garage sale.
Yep.
Latrell Sprewell's got kids to feed. Find his unsigned 3-year, $21 million contract.
Here's Jimmy Rogers' hairpiece.
Wow, Jimmy Rogers.
That's
speaking of Mark Lowry, by the way. So I've become sort of obsessed with because I didn't really know anything about him until he came in and purchased a minority stake in the Timberwolves and find out that he has built startup companies up and sold to Amazon and Walmart, and he's this king of e-commerce, and now he's setting out to build a city of the future. He's a very big, grandiose thinker, and he's been very successful. And as big and grandiose as he is in all of his business dealings, he talks about 3 main things you need for success, and he hammers these points home on every podcast, every interview he does, social media. Number 1, you need capital, you need money. Number 2, you need to hire people that are going to be able to carry through your vision. So just hiring great, smart leadership, quality people, and then have a great vision that you can implement. But he emphasizes the hire the right people part. So if he came in here and caught whiff at all of the Wolves having the wrong leaders in the wrong places, then I'm sure he would have immediately said something to Glenn Taylor in these first couple months. I don't think this was just like Glenn Taylor on his own. I'm guessing that there were a lot of other people and Mark Lowry probably involved in some of this.
So in some way, now the offenses that have allegedly been committed might be totally different. But in a lot of ways, this is Paul Fenton too. And here's my frustration with that. You pay these guys millions of dollars and you trust them with your franchise, the most important part of your franchise, which is on the ice, on the court, or on the field. And a year plus in both cases, you basically fired them because you were like, I guess we didn't know him that well. And my question is this: what's your vetting process? Like, all we heard about Gersson, and I have no clue, okay? So I'm not alleging anything, but let's just say something did occur here. All we heard was what a great guy he was. He was always good to us, but we heard he brought his kids up to the podium, for Christ's sakes, at the press conference. Paul Fenton got 1 year and got fired. And I would just ask guys like Craig Leopold and Glenn Taylor, what was your process for vetting people who weren't just like janitors? They weren't just like pencil pushers. They were the 2 most important people when it came to your product that the fans were going to watch.
Yeah.
Because that's a real issue to me. I mean, we hear about time and time again how much is spent on time, energy, and money to make sure that you got the right person. And this is 2 teams now in very short time periods that have very suddenly pulled the plug. And I understand having to do it, but I would like to know what they're doing exactly before they hire these people to make sure that we're not just being given a bunch of lip service about how great they're going to be.
So with Sachin Gupta now, this is a really, it's a great opportunity, right? You get to take over this basketball team that has a couple great young superstar players, and Anthony Edwards looks like he's going to be taking a step forward, and you're in deep in these Ben Simmons discussions. And so part of me wants to think, yeah, like all these things, the great things people have said about Sachin Gupta going back before he was with the Timberwolves. But to your point, do you just automatically think, well, because the Wolves have identified, because Glenn Taylor has, signed off on Sachin Gupta, that he's probably just incompetent too? Like that's I don't know what to think.
No,
like when they hire Gersson Rosas, it was like, whoa, literally everyone from the CEO to the owner to different people within the organization to Jim Peterson, everybody raved about this guy. Wow. They brought David Kahn in with full confidence, like, no, I know this is a weird hire, but trust us on this one. This guy is going to revolutionize the way that we think about front officing in the NBA. For me, I can't trust anything that happens now until Glenn Taylor is gone from the organization. Just get his radar is so miscalibrated. Get him out. He can't judge character. He can't judge competence. He doesn't set at all a winning or even competent structure for an organization. Get the hell out of here, dude. Like, listen, if we need to find Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez a couple extra bucks to bump that stake from 25% to 51%, let's start a GoFundMe, all right? Let's help Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez get the funds they need to take majority stake of this organization tomorrow. Who's with me?
This is just, yes. No, I'm with you. This is just embarrassing again. It's every time. And now this throws the entire franchise into disarray, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that's the next question, which is, all right, they're sitting here and we literally on Mackey and Judd on our main episode earlier today, we just did like 30 minutes on the latest Ben Simmons discussions and rumors and reports and how does it land for the Timberwolves. A lot of Vegas sportsbooks still have the Wolves as odds-on favorites before this news came out with Gersson Rosas being fired. How does this impact? I mean, Gersson had the in-tight relationship with Daryl Morey, right? It was, hey, those guys have worked together for years, that Gersson's been massaging this thing all offseason. We don't know how Sachin Gupta feels about any of the key pieces. We don't know if he likes D'Lo. We don't know if he is all that interested in Ben Simmons. We don't really know. It also might just scare the Sixers off altogether. Like, oh, yeah, train wreck Timberwolves. Let's just not talk to them. Let's just stop picking up their phone calls and answering their text messages, right? How do you guys think this impacts the Ben Simmons exploration?
I think it probably brings it to a screeching halt because you now have to go. I mean, if you're Sachin Gupta, you now have to sit down with everybody because clearly this is a huge shock, right? You now have to sit down with executives, coaching staff, including Chris Finch probably, and players. And
sounds like Finch is safe, by the way, for people wondering. Like, he's the coach.
I mean, he's going to have, and he should have, a lot of questions. So I got to think that this brings a Simmons trade possibility probably to a complete halt. Now, does that mean it's completely dead? Maybe not, because this might keep up for a while. But yeah, I think you're back at square one. And keep in mind too, Gupta might be in the mix, but according to what Duke's had, they're now going to begin to search for a Pobo. So the Pobo has to be found, and it might not be Gupta. So like you're going to have to go, and here's my question too. Who's conducting the search this time? Do you let Lowry and A-Rod conduct the search? Glenn doesn't strike me as he's going to go quietly. He's still got the majority stake here. So does Glenn say, "Oh, hold on a second here. We're going to try this again," which scares me and should scare Wolves fans. It's so maddening that a professional organization could be so poorly run. I mean, the Vikings have had some problems with players and bad losses, but are they a dumpster fire and competent franchise? Absolutely not.
How did Glenn Taylor become a multi-billionaire?
I don't know.
I mean, how can you be this bad at just keeping it together with a professional sports franchise, and yet you've got enough leadership and smarts and ability to hire people to build a net worth of whatever it is, $2 or $3 billion, $4 billion. It's amazing. I mean, it makes me sad. Why can't I be a billionaire? I mean, I'm not a total idiot. I mean, come on, like nine. I mean, all right, I get it. How do you not nine heads of basketball operations in 13 years? And by the way, that run started at the end of Kevin McHale. So he had already been the owner of an NBA franchise for 13 years and saw 10 years of winning seasons with Kevin Garnett, right? It was like a decade of this is what a winning NBA team looks like. Flip Saunders is a pretty great leader. So he got 2008, it was like 13, 14 years of, okay, this is what winning DNA looks like on a basketball court, in a front office, coaching staff.
Yeah.
And he has whiffed almost every single time since 2008. How?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and Tibbs was too mean. Gersson now was supposed to be cuddly, and I don't know what happened there. It's like the Three Bears, like they keep hiring. I'm the mean Pobo. I'm the nicer Pobo. You're both fired. Honest to God.
Did you bring Tibbs back? Hey, today is the 4-year anniversary. I found the photo on my
I saw that.
timeline. 4-year anniversary of you, me, and Tom Thibodeau meeting for the first time.
Not smiling, which God bless me for that, because I was serious about basketball, and you and Tibbs were cutting it up. But when you look at this whole thing, it's and in Tibbs's case too. Okay, Tibbs probably could have been hired as coach. It might have worked, but in Glenn fashion, he's like, "I'll let you run the whole thing," and there was a disaster because of that.
Glenn Taylor, I just want to emphasize one more thing about Glenn Taylor. He cannot be involved at all whatsoever in the next hiring, whoever it is, whether it's Sachin Gupta just internally being officially made the new Pobo, or like, I don't even want him sitting in on an interview. I want him completely conceding everything to Mark Lowry. Not even Alex. I don't even really care what Alex Rodriguez thinks.
I'm with you.
I want Mark Lowry running this. Mark Lowry at least has a better shot at identifying someone that's not a complete screw up. So please, Glenn, if there's anything you can do before you say goodbye to this organization, just stand out of the way while Mark Lowry hires the next Pobo. That's all we ask.
Odds that Glenn honors that request.
I don't think Glenn is super interested in being super hands-on, and I have heard behind the scenes that he has given a lot of leeway already to Mark Lowry to meet with people. Mark has already talked to most of the key people throughout the organization. Yeah. So Lowry is much more hands-on than a minority owner normally would be. Like they're clearly giving him the leeway to talk to people as if he's going to be the majority owner, which he's scheduled to be in 2 years.
And what frustrates me, so Taylor's defenders could say, well, Mark did this and he decided to release Gersson, and it's on Mark. Just to be clear, what frustrates me the most is that they hired Rosas and now they have to fire him. That's what frustrates me. So where I fault Glenn is, again, what was your system to vet this guy? And because we all heard how great he was going to be. And I mean, these jobs, first of all, there's very few of them. And second of all, it's worth your while to make damn sure that you're getting the right guy. And so my frustration with Glenn primarily lies in the fact that he again hired a guy that couldn't last.
Mm-hmm. Hey, it's the Timberwolves garage sale. Find Johnny Flynn's teeth whitener.
Dean Garrett's shorts.
Super short. Alexi Shved's ponytail binder. That and more at the Timberwolves garage sale.
Hey, did Dwayne Casey leave his loafers? I think so, and we're selling
our
them.
shoelaces.
Oh my gosh. Well, we can pop some comments and questions on the screen here too, Dex. If you see any that just warrant some discussion, I think it's mostly just people being like, "What the hell?
They're right.
What is happening right now?"
I'm totally with these people.
It's amazing, and it comes just hours after Kirill Kaprizov signed his 5-year, $45 million contract too, and so the celebratory news comes out. It's just classic, man. It's classic. I'm trying to go through and see if there's any other updates or news here as it pertains to what happened, but the Wolves are, if you're just joining us on this live stream, the Wolves fired Gersson Rosas. They have promoted, we don't know exactly why, but the tone and the timing of the press release makes it seem like something happened behind the scenes. Like this wasn't just like, oh,
yes,
hey, yeah, we just are going and we're just not seeing your vision for this organization.
2-sentence statements on being fired means you did something.
With no thank you
like,
at the end.
3 paragraphs, you were liked.
Yeah.
2 sentences, something went wrong.
Sachin Gupta is the interim GM. I think one thing we haven't really touched on much here, and we'll get to, let's get to Aiden's question here on the Score North YouTube channel. Thoughts on Elton Brand? I mean, I'm not going to sit here, and I think a Dane Moore or a Doogie would have more intel on how involved he's been in crafting that roster in Philadelphia. but people do rave about him, and I could see him getting elevated. So I believe he's the GM, and Daryl Morey is the president of basketball operations. So could I, just based on league buzz, could I see Elton Brand getting that next step up? Yeah, I could see that. If I'm Elton Brand, I have a lot of questions. If the Timberwolves call me, I mean, the Sixers are kind of a dumpster fire right now too, and they've got a mess to clean up. But if I'm Elton Brand and the Wolves call me, first of all, I don't want to talk to Glenn. I want to talk to Mark. And I've got about 4 hours worth of questions that I need to ask. I would even wonder, why are you identifying me? Does this mean that my career's over?
I'm not. Yeah.
Am I incompetent? Why
I'm
are you
not
contacting
jumping.
me?
I am not jumping at a job here because of Glenn one, but also, can I hire my own coach? Like, is Chris Finch here? And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be, but if I'm going to take the job here for this franchise, I want full authority.
GLS Sparty G, this is the question that we should get to here. So does this impact Cat's desire to stay in Minnesota in the short and long term? So he did tweet WTF. So he was caught off guard, just like a lot of us were. I'm also kind of sick of and over just like being so frantically worried about, well, what if this player wants to leave? This organization is such a garbage dumpster fire. Everybody's going to want to leave it. So like you can't make hires and make trades just to appease Cat. You have to put together a winning culture, win games, hire the best people, trade for players that are going to make an impact, draft players that aren't busts. Like, well, what if they trade D'Lo? Well, listen, if there's a better player out there, who cares what Cat thinks? Get the better player in here. If you think Ben Simmons is better than D'Lo, I don't give a rip what Cat thinks. It'll work if they start winning on the court together.
Yeah, and I think the point with this one is more so, does this, again, set the organization back as far as people wanting to be here? And the answer is yes. I mean, how many Pobos and coaches has Cat had now?
Well, he was drafted by Flip, so his GMs have been Flip. Milton Newton took over after Flip passed away. Tom Thibodeau, Scott Layden. These are just the head of the front office. Gersson Rosas. This will be the sixth head of basketball operations in the 6 years that Cat's been here. 7. This will be year 7, right?
And coach-wise, he went from Flip to Sam Mitchell to Tibbs.
Mitchell, Tibbs, Ryan.
To Ryan, so 5.
And then to Finch, so 5. Yeah. Think about that.
It's ridiculous.
North Star Sports Media. Does this mean Ant is available when it comes to a Simmons trade? No. I don't think so.
Not unless he gets put in the trade
That
machine.
would be...
What if they accidentally put him in the trade machine?
Okay, would you rather have... Okay, if you had two choices, Glenn Taylor will hand select by himself the next president of basketball operations based on his own thoughts and whims, or the actual ESPN.com trade machine just literally sitting like in a room on a computer, and the computer runs like the raw general manager.
The old school computers, the
raw
huge
general
ones.
manager has spoken.
They're like spitting out cards and stuff. I'll take that computer. Huge computers.
Any other thoughts from you guys? We've been here for a half hour trying to
Dex,
process
the floor is
this.
yours. Go ahead, Dex.
I will say, number one, as someone who has always had 1 foot out of the water and one hand from at a reach with the Timberwolves for basically the last 15, 16 years, stuff like this gets me really hard to buy all in. Like, I was really looking forward to this Wolves season. I honestly was. And this has been a fun season of speculation with the Ben Simmons trade rumors. And stuff like this is just so on brand for the Wolves that it's hard for me to go all in. And look, the Twins have already alienated me for other reasons. Okay, they know what they did. It's like a bad dog. They know what they did to upset me.
You know what you did.
Summer. You literally looked me in the eye and you still did it. Like that is why I can't stand the Twins. But the Wolves, dude, just right when they look like they're finally heading in this right direction, they're going to be the Timberwolves, and it's frustrating because I know Mackey's one of millions of people. I have numerous friends who want this organization to be just as successful and as popular as the other teams in this town, and it's incredibly frustrating to see this happen.
Dude, our guy Brian Murphy, formerly of the Pioneer Press, he retweeted the Wolves press release in which they misspelled Timberwolves. And he goes, Wolves misspelled their own name in the press. Sorry. Oh, God. Wolves misspelled their own name in the press release. I suppose that's okay. Staff has plenty of time to learn how to spell Seattle. Come on, Murph.
Yep.
Oh, Murph.
Oh, yeah. The new
Murph dog.
Supersonics. Got to change the name.
Oh, man.
Playing that gorgeous building right by Mackey, right down the street, right, Phil?
It is walking distance, yeah.
It's a gorgeous.
I don't want
Climate
them to.
Pledge
Climate
Arena?
Pledge Arena.
Oh, man, it's going to be gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, I bet a lot of people love that name. Yeah.
So,
Phil,
all
aren't
right.
you pissed off?
Yes.
I'm upset, but you.
What, did you
this
not
is
hear
your
me
team.
basically murdering Glenn Taylor with my microphone?
But I mean, I'm surprised you're not throwing stuff. This is your club.
Well, what do you want? Like, I'm conditioned for this. It's not like this is a surprise out of no. I mean, yeah, it's a surprise. But like, if you were to have told me, a couple months ago, hey, some shocking bad Timberwolves news is going to happen, I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess so.
I guess, but
it's been about a year. So
we have had the pleasure all summer long of talking about Ben Simmons and trade. I mean, it's been fun.
yeah, and I'm
who
still.
knows?
I think part of the reason why I'm not totally hopeless is because Anthony Edwards is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think Ant and Cat together, healthy for a full season.
Yeah.
Like they're already together. It's not like Gersson ruined it or something. Those guys are teammates. They're playing together. The Wolves played well when D'Lo was healthy
you didn't
down
hear
the
about
stretch.
the Ant trade that Gersson orchestrated right before he got fired?
I think it would feel even more dark and hopeless if they hadn't hit on Ant. If it was like, oh, now they need a new president of basketball operations so they can find good players. Like they need more good players, but they have their nucleus, and they just need to stay healthy and stay on the court. And this is probably going to bite me, but I've heard enough great things about Gupta that I feel like I'm interested in watching him operate the Wolves front office. I obviously had the same thoughts when they hired Gersson. And Gersson's been a friend of the show. Guy's always been good to come on the show. And
I think we were talking last night that who was debate. Judd and I were actually on the Kaprizov episode. And who is the best friend of the show? Is it Bill Guerin or is it Gersson Rosas? Well, I think we now know who declarative is currently the best friend of.
Well, you
of
guys
the show.
talked to Billy Guerin
And
today.
yes, that'll also be up right here on our Score North YouTube channel. Subscribe. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button.
Nice. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and like break my microphone and jump out my window because it's the Timberwolves.
I hope you're not too high up.
If you are completely shocked by bad Wolves
I'm
news
not
at this
completely
point,
shocked.
then I don't know how to help you.
I can't imagine as a lifelong Wolves fan how frustrating it must be when you think there's real traction as far as they finally hired the right guy and every time it goes sideways.
Yep, dude, it's... Hey, welcome in to the Timberwolves garage sale. Find the computer that Tom Thibodeau allegedly threw through a glass window. That's right.
How's it spelled? Timber what?
The V is before the L, a common mistake also by a certain
Yeah, it's
member
like
of
Brett
this
Favre
team.
spelling.
Timberwolves?
Timberwolves.
Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Timberwolves lace is how they spelled it.
Timberwolves. All right.
All right. Hey, go
Hey, everybody.
Timberwolves. Thanks for hanging out with us on this emergency episode of Mackey and Judd. And please click the subscribe button on the Score North YouTube channel if you want daily Minnesota sports entertainment speculation. Tomorrow, Doogie will bring some more insight into what the hell is happening now in the Wolves front office. So just be sure, if you're not already hanging out on our YouTube channel or subscribed on one of the many podcast platforms or scorenorth.com, now is your chance. See you guys.